This video assumes you've watched the other video, Crocheting a Little Bonsai Tree, because I'm not going to give you all sorts of details. But in that video, I made a comment that you could make a little scary Halloween tree. And the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do that. So I thought maybe I'd show you that project as it goes along. A few things I prepared in advance. This is going to be my little container that my tree is going to be in, and I've already filled it up almost to the top with this plaster Paris. There's actually a piece of aluminum foil in there to keep it a little lighter weight, fill up some space. I will have to add more plaster Paris later, but just to get that out of the way. And I have, this is that Habu leaf thread that we had in the other tree, and I just dyed this brown. I'm using food coloring for this because I didn't have any brown, and I want there to be kind of ragtaggy little wisps of dead looking leaves hanging off the branches of the tree. So that's what this is going to be when we finally start to work on wrapping the tree. Right now it is drying, it is wet, I'm not going to play with it. One thing that I said in that video was that when you make the wire base, it's real important to start wires coming all the way from the roots all the way up and out, and that's what gives it the strength, and that's true. But I wanted my scary tree to have kind of more mass at the top. To me, a scary tree, if I think about Snow White, Wizard of Oz, and Lord of the Rings and things, a scary tree has a little unnatural balance. It's a little heavier on the top than the bottom, and it has a really long trunk. So this is what I've come up with to hopefully accomplish that. Took 3 pieces of wire, 2 of them I'm going to bend this way, and 1 through here, and bend this way, and then take my needle nose pliers, which if you do a lot of trees, you'll end up owning all of these little wire tools. Okay. And really crimp that down hard. And I know it's not as solid as if it were a single piece, but on the other hand, there's 2 pieces of wire here, there's 4 pieces of wire here. That's going to give my tree a lot more mass on top than on the bottom, which is what I'm going for on this one. So that's the first trick. And I cut up, that's probably too much wire. I'll kind of play with it and see because it's a little full. Then I have a few extra wires that I've set aside. These are going to be for basically the arms and hands, and I'm going to do the nose as a branch. So I've set 3 aside to be the nose. So all my wires are cut and ready to go. And I've crocheted the orifices, for lack of a better word, for my facial features, which on a scary tree, I imagine those to be, you know, the holes in the tree, basically, knots in the wood. And these are little tubes, see, like this? Each one's a little tube. There's 2 for the eyes and 1 for the mouth. And if you wanted to crochet a nose, you could do nostrils, but like I said, I'm going to do a branch for my nose. So next step up is we're going to go ahead and crochet one of the eyes. So there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is the eye, and I want it to really open up, so I'm going to crochet 2 single crochets in each stitch as best as I can see them. Working with black, it's always a challenge, but the idea is to get a lot of stitches in here because I want it to really pop open. And just as with the other tree, I'm using Sulky 12 weight quilting thread. And you can get that at probably a craft store or a quilting shop. And it doesn't have to be exactly that, it's just that that's what works for me. And I'm using 2 threads again with a number 9 hook. If you can work smaller, you do with 1 thread, you will be able to actually do much more detailed work. So that's probably a positive. Now I'm going to continue to work probably, it doesn't want to be too big because this is a small tree we're making. So maybe 2 more rounds, and I'm going to increase, like at every 5th stitch or something, I'll add an extra stitch in there to just keep it going flat for a couple rounds. But you probably don't need to watch that. I decided that 1 extra round was enough. That's a big enough eye for the size tree I'm going to do. So, you know, area around his eye. So now I'm going to do the eyebrow ridge. And to do that, I'm going to start really increasing the number of stitches again. I'm going to do 2 stitches in every one for the length that I want the ridge to be. Now I'm going to turn around, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to work an even round. Not all the way around, just going to go back through those 2 stitches that those double stitches I just did. Across the eyebrow ridge. And now I'm turn back around here, and I think I'm going to go one more round this way, and I'm going to increase every other stitch or so, every couple stitches. I just didn't get quite tall enough there. So now I'm going to kind of fold it over and just grab through and just a slip stitch through there to kind of secure the end of it, and then crochet and start reducing stitches pretty dramatically here. Every other stitch, take one in. That. So turn around and see, there we go. We have a nice little eyebrow ridge. Use basically the same technique. Down here I'm going to make a cheekbone, a little raised cheekbone. This will be a little more gradual on the cheek. I'm not going to show you that, okay? So we'll come back and do the mouth next. So now I'm going to do the mouth. I'm working on the mouth, and what I did was just like the eye, the very first round of wood color I went 2 stitches to every one. Then I did 2 more rounds where I'm also increasing, but not quite as dramatically, like 2 stitches normal, then 2 in 1, 3 stitches normal, then 2 in 1, like that. To get, I want it to really increase. Now I'm gonna dramatically and quickly bring it down, and I'm hoping that this will give me a really puckery look. So I'm going to pull 3 stitches together. Another 3 stitches together. And yeah, as you can see, it's starting to roll backwards, and that will, I'm hoping, I'm going to just do 2 for this one. Give me a scary mouth is what I'm going for here. As you can see, it's pulling in real nice and tight, and that's going to give me, when I start working, I'll work around it even, I'll have a nice big knot hole in my wood for a mat. Okay, so then there's just a lot of crocheting to do the trunk part, and then we'll come back and start assembling things after that. Hi, okay, I have been crocheting like crazy, and I've got my cute little bark scary face, as you can see. And I've left holes. There's a hole in his nose, and there's a couple of holes over here. And I'm going to take my free wire that I didn't bundle up and poke it through the hole. Let's see if I can do that with any kind of speed. Okay. So those will be his nose. A little bit of folly. Then I'm just going to wrap this up and take a needle and thread and sew it on. So you don't need to see that part. So I've sewed it on, and I think he looks quite cutely vicious, if you want to see myself. I'm going to wrap his nose now, and I'm going to put some dead leaves here and there on the tree. The other day I found ball of this leaf yarn in one of the colors that Habu actually produces it in, which is, I think they call that camel. And while it's not attractive for green grass, I think it's going to make nice looking dead grass, so I'm going to use it to do my ground cover. And I took a few off to use for dead leaves too on the tree itself. So you want to make sure you start on the crocheting, and on all of the little holes that I poked, I crocheted a little lip to give me something to wrap around. Okay, well, I've just about finished wrapping his nose, and I'm going to stick some little dead leaves on this branch. I very carefully cut that little bit of thread that sticks out past the last leaf. I've never tried this, so this is an exciting on-camera thrill ride here. But I think it's going to work. There we go, that looks pretty good. She says as she wraps all leaf and ruins it. Come back down here, I don't want to tie off around those little leaves because I think they're nip the little ends off. I'll have to go retrieve that one. And I think that's a very cute little scary branch nose. So next up I'm going to start wrapping the arms. So I have wrapped one arm and one hand. I'm going to nip off the ends here. And what I think is critical to a scary hand, maybe this is incredibly obvious, is that the fingers be kind of too long, because I think that makes it look like a skeleton. And as you can see, I pulled one out early to be the thumb. That's a pretty good scary hand. And now what I'm going to do on the roots, you can see I pulled them into two big sections. I'm going to wrap each section, and then I'm just going to split off into 5 pieces, so I have like toes to be grabbing into the ground. And then I'm going to wrap up here, occasionally throwing in a dead leaf or two, though I have to say the dead leaves are not quite as cute as I thought they'd be. And again, as often as possible, having it end in very long, skinny branches, because I think that looks more like it's reaching out for you. So that's where we are. I'm going to be wrapping for a while. Okay, that was a lot of wrapping. I spent hours wrapping I wrapped in the car, I wrapped when guests were over, it took a lot, so I'm going to say it's a fairly intense project. The roots are actually wrapped with the same brown that I used. It's actually the same combination I used on the other tree, the light colored and the dark brown together. And for the base, for the ground cover, I used that camel leaf thread from Habu, and I crocheted it with a creamy color and the brown from Sulky. So I don't know what color blendable this is, but these two together plus the camel Habu thread is what made up the ground cover. And as you can see, it's hanging off the edge and looking creepy. I used a really thick mix of plaster of Paris to get myself a nice mound on there to stick that tree on. I did have to poke a little more into it, but it worked. And for a final finishing touch, I did a little scary spider web. Here's my scary spider, and he's tied on with the white thread, but I used a black Sharpie to hide that. And you want to come up and see this spider web? This thread is a glow-in-the-dark quilting thread. I got mine from Superior Threads online. I'm sure it's available elsewhere, but it really does glow in the dark. It makes for a nice, creepy spider web effect. So you could hang a little, you could tie up a little ball red thread and hang it as like an apple, a little homage to the Wizard of Oz. You could crochet moss and hang it around on him. I did find that the dead leaves were not as fun or easy to use as I thought they would be, so there's only a couple of them on the tree. They just weren't worth the trouble of how hard it was to work with them. But I do think, I pick him up now, I do think that he makes a very nice, scary little Halloween tree to sit on a desk or on a coffee table while you have guests over. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed him.